What's good, Fins Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and I'm back here with another one. And as always, I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the Jason Taylor to my Zach Thomas. What's good, EM? Say what up to the people.
What's good, homie? Fans Nation. Y'all already know what time it is. Let's get it, baby. Let's get it.
Let's do this. Do it. So, guys, let's start off with some curious stuff. Michael Thomas and Devontae Parker. So, I think you got some feedback going on there. I don't know if you're showed. Yeah. So, there was a post by the NFL on Fox today on Instagram, and it asked, which is tougher, A, make a catch while guarded by Stephen Gilmore, or B, break up a pass while guarding Michael Thomas? And Devontae Parker decided to answer EM, and he said A. And Michael Thomas, brother, did not really wasn't really a fan of that answer, as you'll see here, guys, because here is the exchange. And he basically said, for you, yes, go run some numbers up. Then you can talk. I lapped you and I've been in the league longer than – and you've been in the league longer than me first – and he called him a first rounder. And then Devontae asked, got some hard feelings there, brother? Let me get targeted 300 times a game, which is so true. I mean, me and him were talking about that before we went live. And then the feelings continued to get in them. And look at, I mean, Mike Wallace went off. In other words, you weak, they don't even put your name in the same sentence as me. Remember that? You still not going to do nothing. It took you 6 years and 17 weeks to have a good game. Get the out of here, blame your parents, not no QB. And then Devontae said, quit crying, bro. And Thomas came right back and said, you heard what I said. And, I mean, Devontae, I didn't hear shit, boy. And then Mike Thomas saying, you can't even get a seat at the table. Oh, boy.
Raekwon.
Whoo. So
what? Did you say you said Raekwon said that?
No. Michael Thomas said that.
Oh, okay. I thought you said, my bad. I'm sorry, bro.
No, said you can't even get a seat at the table.
Ladies. Wow, man. I had no idea. I saw the initial exchange, but I didn't I didn't know they took it a little further than that. But ladies, come on.
Bro, Devontae got him into his feelings. I mean, Michael Thomas started going off like a woman who wasn't getting a response from a boy that left her at the altar. I mean, he kept dropping message after message after message. And Devontae was just at that point, Devontae had won, bro. I mean, when he said, let me get targeted 300 times a game, we all felt that one. I'm pretty sure. Because me and Ian were talking about when we went live, New Orleans, their whole offense is basically designed to manufacture open space for Michael Thomas, which is why he gets targeted 10, 11, 12, 13 times a game, because that's how that – I mean, you guys saw the remnants of that offense being taken to LSU, and I've talked about this with Joe Burrow. If you watch a lot of Joe Burrow's bigger highlights, you can tell it's Joe Brady is a former receiver himself, so that system was generated to manufacture space for receivers, and Drew Brees and Michael Thomas still eating off of it. Let's be honest with ourselves. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
So, I mean,
it was
bro, I'm telling you right now, the pressure's on Devontae. You got to keep rolling, bro. That can't be a 1-year hit. You got to keep – now you're going at it with top 10 receivers, top 5 receivers. Now you got to put the numbers up on the board like Pusha T, bro.
Well, I agree. He shouldn't be he should already be motivated. This little exchange he had with Michael Thomas, that should be like water off a duck's back, to be honest with you. He should already be motivated, self-motivated, and, on building upon the season he had last year. So this is nonsense. To me, this sounds like two guys that have too much time on their hands. But, it's good for, again, for Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all of these, it's good for clickbait and whatnot. But Devontae shouldn't, he should already be motivated and looking towards next season. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's great for something when there's not a lot going on right now in the NFL, right?
yeah. But I see both. I see both sides. You know, I can see like Devontae's in terms of his response to Michael Thomas. He's spot on with that. You know what I mean? This kid,
He got it. You
know,
could tell he got him in his feelings.
oh yeah, absolutely.
With Thomas multiple replying before Devontae even replied once, right? Like
And
you could tell.
that tells me how sensitive Michael Thomas is about that subject. That tells me I'm more inclined to believe he's heard that before. So, but I think he's spot on. Devontae is spot on. But at the the flip side of that coin, Michael Thomas, he's an extremely productive receiver. We talked about how New Orleans scheme a lot of how they scheme him open a lot. With a lot of concepts that they do, but you can't. At the end of the day, that dude is highly, highly productive. So, but I see both sides. Both of them are. Devontae hadn't entered that tier of receivers yet. He had one good year. Michael Thomas has been productive every year he's been in the league. So, but yeah, man, just Devontae shouldn't let this out. He shouldn't get 10, bro. He should already be motivated for next year.
So, besides, the beef that we had going on today, this weekend was kind of wild, man. It first started off with Cody Latimer from the Washington Redskins. He was arrested on Saturday morning after shots were reportedly fired inside a Douglas County, Colorado apartment, and Latimer has posted a $25,000 bond. That wasn't the first and only gun incident involving NFL stars this weekend, as it just continued on, brother. When you had, I think this one shocked a lot of people when New York Giants cornerback DeAndre Baker and Seattle's cornerback Quentin Dunbar, who's recently been acquired for a 5th-round pick from the Redskins, buddy, they turned themselves into Broward County Jail because there was basically a warrant out for their arrest for armed robbery after they apparently lost over $70,000 in an illegal dice gambling game at a Miramar house with 15 to 20 occupants in attendance. Apparently, a man came in a red mask, stuck everyone up, and that man in the red mask was getting orders directly from Dunbar or Baker to shoot at someone. So there weren't shots fired, but they are being charged, and they've both been released. And $100,000 bond for Dunbar. Baker was granted a $200,000 bond because they both have 4 counts of armed robbery with a firearm against them, but Baker also has 4 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm also against them. Brother, we're talking about Dunbar, who was arguably, he's a converted wide receiver to corner, but he had a fantastic year last year, brother. DeAndre Baker, he's still getting that first-round money. And what's another thing is, we had heard in the pre-draft process before the Giants moved up to trade him that there were character concerns and red flags regarding that. And that's not only did a lot of people question the Giants moving back up to take DeAndre Baker on a talent level-wise, because a lot of people didn't feel he was the most talented corner to move up for. On top of that, there were character concerns, and it's only taken a year right now for this to look like a bad move by the New York Giants. And now you got a guy who just got traded for a 5th-round pick who's going to get cashed out by the Seattle Seahawks. Bro, really? $70,000 when you're going to make millions and millions and millions over the course of the next 5 years, bro?
What are you doing? Cases like this, not only these cases, but year after year, we see case after case about players getting into just crazy, unfathomable situations. You know what I mean? And these kids, they work so hard. The issue I have is a lot of these kids literally come from extremely challenged backgrounds. They work their tails off to get out of the situation that they were born in, and you see them revert back to the situation that they dug themselves that they dug themselves out of. And
Yeah.
it's just consistent. You see it year after year after. I just don't understand that. I cannot understand that for the life of me. What will motivate these individuals? You're making millions. If you're so worried about 70 grand, why are you? First off, you should be isolated anyway. You know what I mean? That's another issue. What are you doing in an illegal gambling house in the first place when you're supposed to be quarantined? Okay, you know what I mean? This just blew me away when I said, no, this can't be right. This story cannot be true. And it turns out it is. Both of them are, their careers are done. Their careers are over. There's no way a team is going to touch either one of these players. I don't know what the teams are. I don't know how they're bound to them contractually, but there should have been some language. If they had, like with DeAndre Baker with the New York Giants, there should have been some language in his contract that, that would give them an escape clause in the event, an issue like this comes up as, over the duration of that contract. And Dunbar, I'm not sure about Dunbar's past. Whether or not.
Yeah, I hadn't heard character concern. I had never heard character concerns.
I've never heard that about him, but Devontae Baker, absolutely.
Yeah,
so, but again, I don't know what Seattle. They just cashed him out, so I don't know what his contract is like, how they're bound to him or whatnot. But this absolutely makes no sense. This is like one of those things. Like, again, I thought it was like I thought it was fake news.
But bro, it wasn't even done there, because the fourth NFL player with a gun charge this weekend was also part of an AFC East rival. It was Buffalo Bills lineman Ed Oliver, another high draft pick. And I mean, you might know more about this than I do because of where you're from, but this was in Houston. And he got hit with charges of driving while intoxicated and unlawfully carrying a weapon. So you can speak on that better than I can, but apparently police were alerted to Oliver's driving by a 911 call from another motorist who reported a Ford Super Duty pickup hauling a trailer with a dune buggy on it through a 45-mile-per-hour construction zone on State Highway 242. And the 911 caller noted that Oliver was failing to maintain a lane and driving dangerously. So
again,
and he had an open beer between his legs when he failed. He failed the field sobriety test.
I just don't understand it. I don't get it, bro. Another case of, but I think what it is a lot of these issues with these athletes. You see it with entertainers or whatnot. They have a mindset, and it's because they have a mindset of superiority. They think there's a level of, they think they're invincible. They think the rules of this world generally don't apply to them, and they generally don't, because we've seen entertainers, football players, whatnot, get jammed up in situations, and then all of a sudden the case just goes away. You know what I mean? For whatever reason. But a lot of these kids, man, they've been catered to their whole life because they've been so good in athletics. Starting at the Pee Wee level, up through Pop Warner, up through middle school, high school, and certainly college and pro. So a lot of them just they can't get out of that realm of, they just have a mindset that they're just, the rules do not apply to them. And again, Ed Oliver, another one, first round pick, bro. But, his situation, I'm not condoning it. He needs to be reprimanded for the unlawful firearm, as well as having, an open beer container while driving. He needs to be dealt with. But
what's he looking for? What's it looking like in Texas? Because I know you're not in Houston, but you would have a better grasp on what the state laws would be regarding that.
You mean in terms of like his potential penalty?
The penalty on the unlawfully carrying a firearm and driving under the influence.
A lot of that has to depend on his priors. You know what I mean? Generally, basically, a lot of it just has to do with his priors, what he's, what his background is. And again, he's not a quote unquote average citizen. He's, like me or you or whoever. that I'm sure that's going to come into play as well. But at the end of the day, in terms of his punishment, 60 to 70% of it will be based on what his priors are. So, but in the event he comes up clean and it's like a first offense, maybe looking at maybe a year and a half for an average person, 2 years maybe. So, they'll wind up probably serving maybe 30%. A lot of cases like that, again, first-time offenders, bro, they'll get a 2-year sentence, and then a lot of them don't have the money to like bond out, so they'll sit out a good portion of their sentence, and then when they go to trial, when they go before the judge will say, well, we're going to hit you with this 2-year sentence or a year and a half, but we'll give you time, we'll give you credit for your time served. So they wind up serving only like 6 months or whatever, and they'll get released like, at that point or a little after that. So he definitely, again, if his background comes up clean, he won't see any prison time or anything like that. I don't think so. But again, I'm going to be paying close attention to this situation as well to kind of find out that information. But I don't anticipate him, considering who he is, again, like I said, you rest assured the Buffalo Bills owner is making some phone calls down to Houston, I am sure. So I don't anticipate him, I do not anticipate them coming down too harshly on him for that. So but we'll see.
All right, brother. So let's get into the Rooney Rule thing, because an actual change did take place today before we get into the controversial change that was suggested this weekend. So an actual change to the Rooney Rule did take place today, bro. So in advance of Tuesday's virtual owner meetings, the NFL will expand the Rooney Rule, which will now require additional interviews of minority candidates. The league will require clubs to interview at least 2 external minority candidates for head coaching openings and at least 1 minority candidate for any coordinator job. And in addition, teams must interview 1 external minority candidate for senior football operations and general manager jobs. Teams in the NFL league office must also include minorities and or female applicants for senior level positions, including club president jobs. And these are immediate rule changes from what we understand. But the one thing that was kind of the hot topic with the suggestion of this possibly going on this weekend was the whole suggestion that they are willing to give a 3rd-round pick to teams that hire minority GMs or minority head coaches. And so a lot of people kind of, including NFL head coaches and players, kind of chimed in EM. So one person was Anthony Lynn, who thinks basically he's not a fan of it. He thinks sometimes you can do the wrong thing while trying to do the right thing, but he thinks they should open up the coaching people to more people, not just coordinators. Those are 2 different skill sets, being a leader of a franchise and calling plays. There are a lot of brilliant guys who can call plays but can't lead a damn team, right? So some former players chimed in, brother, including Des Bryant, who simply said, I'm going to act like I didn't read this, in response to Bleacher Report putting out the NFL is proposing that teams will receive a boost to a 3rd-round draft pick if they hire a minority as a head coach or a GM. Former player to Asante Samuel also chimed in, and again, he wasn't a fan of it either. I mean, you can say I don't got to read what that says for people to get that Asante, and even people outside of the NFL, EM, like Donovan Mitchell, for example. I mean, look at him. Did I read this right? And a lot of the people are basically the view that's coming down on this potential Rooney Rule change is basically they're saying, have we gotten to a point where you have to legally bribe NFL teams to hire head coaches or general managers in the minority? And my whole thing with EM, and we talked about this yesterday, EM, I think this has kind of come to a head, especially at the fact you look like at a guy from like Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City. It's an absolute travesty that he doesn't have a job. And I know that's been a controversial subject, him specifically, over the past few off seasons because of what they've been able to do with Patrick Mahomes, et cetera, even after they lost in the AFC Championship against New England, right? A lot of people expected him to be offered a job, and a lot of people who weren't as qualified got jobs. So, what are your thoughts on this whole proposal of a third-round boost, and B, what are your thoughts of what the actual change was today in terms of, now they're putting numbers and they want to get it up to senior positions and not just teams, but also in the NFL?
I'm not a fan. As we talked about yesterday, I'm definitely not a fan of the initial proposal. Here we are sitting in 2020, and you have to incentivize people that are in power to get out of their comfort zone and entertain, interviewing, just basic consideration for individuals that are of color. I mean, man, again, I think it's insulting. It really is. I agree with I support the NFL in spirit, in terms of, because I can see what they're trying to do. And again, like we talked about yesterday, I thought the initial proposal definitely shouldn't be, and it wouldn't be passed. It wouldn't be passed by, the other owners. But what it would do, it would spark up another conversation about this particular issue, because obviously it's an issue. Okay. The NFL would not be bringing up these proposals and trying to implement these rules if they didn't realize that there's a problem here. Okay. And I think, again, with the rule that came out today, that's actually that they signed into law per se. I think the initial proposal was to, again, bring up a conversation about this particular issue, and then I'm sure they discussed it, and then they came with this other rule and implemented that, rather quickly. But with that being said, it's just it just really is. It's really sad that we're sitting here in 2020, and you have to still implement these. You have to incentivize, owners of companies to entertain, employment of people of color, considering the league is over 75%, minority, African American, whatever you want to call it. And man, it's unfortunate. Again, but I agree with the NFL. I see what they're trying to do, and I agree with them in spirit, because I'm all about leveling the playing field. I'm all about equality, number one. But that initial proposal was definitely not the way to go about doing that. That was just slapping a lot of people's faces, in my opinion.
And I mean, I brought this up to you, EM. I mean, instead of these guys, and I get it, we do need more minority head coaches and coordinators, 110%. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't these guys be setting an example, starting at the top? Like, aren't we long overdue for having the first Black majority owner?
Yeah, absolutely, bro. You look at the the NBA. They have obviously Michael Jordan, but the first one was the Michael Johnson, Mr. Johnson. Excuse me. He was the owner of the Charlotte Hornets, which Michael Jordan eventually bought it from him. But I think, to my knowledge, Michael Jordan is the only African American owner in the NBA, if I'm not correct. I think minority owner in general. I think, but the NFL is taking a little longer, maybe. Obviously, and I think we have one considered a minority owner. It's the Arab owner of the. I think he's from Afghanistan, I believe. And
are you talking about Shad Khan?
Yeah, he's the owner of the Jaguars, right? And But yeah, it's the NFL for some reason they seem to, because if you look at I'm just using the NBA as an example. The NBA seemed to me, like 20 years ago, to be out ahead of the other leagues, the other big leagues, Major League Baseball and NFL in particular, in terms of the inclusionary of minorities in the higher up positions, head coaching, GMs, so on and so forth. And the demographic is pretty much the same. Well, when you're comparing the NBA to the NFL in terms of numbers, I mean, the NBA is like, right around 75, 80% African Americans. So the numbers are pretty much the same in the NFL. So I look at in terms of the NFL, Major League Baseball, they've always been, slower to the party compared to what the NBA has done. But again, I'm all about leveling that playing field. I'm all about equality for everyone. And NFL, they seem just a little bit slow in terms of, catching up to the rest of the world in terms of the inclusionary of, African Americans, minorities in general. For whatever reason, we can sit here and speculate as to why all day long, but the fact of the matter, the numbers don't lie. So again, I agree with the NFL in spirit. I see what they're trying to do because, again, what did we talk about yesterday? I said this initial proposal, absolutely, there's no way this should be and will be passed, but it will potentially spark up other conversations, about this particular issue. And look at the proposal that they implemented today. So that's exactly what happened. So, with that being said, they need to continue, in my opinion, there's several ways how you can help try to remedy this situation. Obviously, I don't think it should start at this stage at the owner's level. I think you need to start more on the coordinator and in the coordinator level, particularly, especially in the NCAA. You know what I mean? Because the numbers there are staggering. The difference between white candidates, white coaches, white coordinators compared to minorities. The numbers just blow you away on the collegiate level. So it needs to start there first, because if you're a coordinator, okay, you're generally on a fast track to being a head coach. Generally, that's just how the system works. And whether you agree with it or not, this is how it works in theory. So, but yeah, man, I just think they need to, again, I didn't agree with the initial proposal. I thought that was just, that was crazy. But I think the NFL, again, it sparked up another conversation in which I'm sure they went to I'm sure this has been worked out like months ago. You know what I mean? They're just, bringing this out to the media and implementing this rule now. But it sparked up another conversation need to have about this particular issue. And again, obviously NFL recognized there's a problem here. They would not be going to these links to try to implement these different policies to remedy this situation. Obviously there's a problem there. So again, hopefully we can everybody continue to come into the conversation table. Continue the continued dialogue needs to be, they need to continue the dialogue, and hopefully this brings, it helps bring about change and things get a lot more leveled here in the foreseeable future, man.
Like, what do you think about? I saw someone suggest this coaching situation is another reason why the NFL needs some sort of minor league in terms of, you can groom these coaches as coordinators or even head coaches at a minor league level where they can prove themselves and basically pad their resume to where you can't really question whether they've earned or deserve or whether they have the capability to have that kind of job. I know we used to have the NFL Europe. I know all these new startup leagues that have come out these past couple of years have had some kind of hope in some way, shape, or form of working with the NFL. What do you think about that in terms of they need to find basically a way where they can create a coaching carousel that these teams can pick and choose from?
I'm gonna have to research that a little more. That idea before I really want to speak on that. This is the first time I've heard about that, bro.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, again, at least at the end of the day, we can sit. They're having conversations. At least conversations are being had. You know what I mean? Because you can't address the issue if there's no dialogue being established there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all of these theories, all these different scenarios that people are throwing out and people are coming up with, the NFL is trying to come up with, at least at the end of the day, man, and I think that's a huge positive because obviously these particular issues hadn't been talked about, especially publicly to this extent. So again, they're having conversations, so that's a huge positive moving forward.
All right, brother. Do you want to get into who we have as our most overrated and most underrated players?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Because I mean, we do have we tried to select different players. We share a commonality in the underrated player, so I'm pretty sure because we didn't even talk about this before we went live. I'm just going off of what we discussed yesterday in terms of. Hold on a sec here. Let me just something. Rhino, you need to watch what Twitter and Instagram you keep dropping in there because you've done it a few times already, bro. Make sure you get the right one. Okay, so let's start off with you, EM. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with our overrated player. Yeah, you saw it, bro. Why you gotta laugh?
My bad, bro. Go ahead. You slipping, Rhino. You slipping.
Yeah, you are slipping, Rhino. Step your game up. So let's start off with I'm going off basically our discussion earlier. Let's start off with your most overrated player, and that would be Devon Godshaw.
Man, I take no comfort in.
Sure you do.
I really like Devon Godshaw as a man, what he's done off the field, especially what he's done off the field. Again, I don't know him from a can of paint, but it appears that he's a very, very good guy, good kid, cares about his community, cares about his family. But I just think, and it's necessarily that he's overrated per se, but he isn't an inconsistent player, in my opinion. And I just think that him long-term, I don't think he's a long-term solution on this defensive line. I really don't. Considering the money he could potentially be asking, next offseason. But yeah, I just think the players that we've brought in last year and then the additions we made this year, that pretty much made him expendable at this time. But again, yeah, he's somewhat of an inconsistent player. I just think he's, I don't think he's strong enough because I think this year we will be totally converted to that base 34. And because they have the players to really implement that and consistently implement that base 34 scheme, I just think he's a player that kind of falls through the cracks, so to speak. It's like he hasn't cemented himself at one position. And so I think, he has this, and you would think by the profile that he has, he's big enough, to man the nose tackle position, but I don't think his hand placement is consistent enough. And I don't think he's strong enough at the point, and he doesn't have a strong enough anchor, in his lower body to man that position consistently and perform at a high level. I think obviously the Dolphins felt that way as well, in my opinion. And again, if he's playing, again, I think the conversion is complete now to a base 34. Not to say that we won't implement some 4-3 concepts and 4-3 formations at some point in the year, but I think, in my opinion, based off of you go about the players that we've brought in from free agency and as well as the draft, I think the conversion is complete. And I think Devon Gottschall, we just have too much depth. We have other players that are better at that two-gap technique than what he's shown. Now, could he improve this year? Absolutely. He could, he might. But again, we already have players that are better in that skill set. Well, I should say more consistent in that skill set than what he's shown, last year. And I just think his price tag will be too much, and Miami will not deem him as they will not prioritize him as a further investment in terms of his contract after this year.
See, I agree totally because, we go back to that Rosenhaus tweet where he showed the money bag emojis. This is a guy who, out of 115 defensive linemen graded last year, he graded out as a 70th. You know what I mean? So, with run defense, he had a 67.5 run defense grade, which was good for 58th out of 116. But when you get into the pass rush grade, brother, out of 109 defensive interior linemen graded, he had a 54.2 pass rush grade, and he was 91st out of 100.
Average player.
And he wants to get paid like he is. And I think the reason why is because when you go back to 2018, when we were in that wide nine, he was very effective for, you know what I mean? Like, his grade this year was 64.1 overall, but in 2018 it was 73.2 because, he was being deployed properly. You know what I mean? And it's like what you said, it's the scheme change, how much money he's going to want. Hasn't it kind of made him damn near obsolete considering what they've gone out to this team, considering what they've gone out and what they did in the draft?
Absolutely. No doubt. I think they when they selected Zach Seiler, it started with him when he poached him off of the Baltimore Ravens roster. And then, him down the stretch the last 4 or 5 games, he played extremely, extremely well. And again, another player that has extensive background in that system, that two-gap 3-4 system. Devon Gottschall has been playing, 4-3 wide nines his entire career. That's what he was at LSU. He got drafted by the Dolphins. We all know what the scheme we were running with Matt Burke and Adam Gase. So again, that skill set is not easy to, it's just like any other skill set in the game of football. You have to learn it. You have to be good at it. And he just doesn't have, I just think, number one, I think his, he has size and he has girth, but I just don't think he's not that strong of a player compared to other, NFL players. Because you look at his combine numbers when he came to the league, he only bench, and I say only, but he only bench pressed, his bench press was only like 17 times. He only repped, 225 17 times at that time coming into the league. So again, I say only. I can't do that, but that's relative to his size and other NFL players that has his similar profile. That's not very good. So especially in trench play. So you have even wide receivers doing that nowadays. So again, I just don't think. I just think he's just falling through the cracks. He's just one of those guys. He's an average player. But again, the asking price that he's gonna, his asking price is gonna be crazy. I know he's gonna be asking for like, 8, 9, 10 million. I know he is. So I just think the Dolphins, based on the players that they brought in through free agency and the draft, and then continue, I'm sure they'll continue to address that with the D-line position next year as well. I just think he's expendable. Me personally, if we can't find a suitable trade partner, I'm letting him walk and go get that money elsewhere and collect a compensatory pick, which what I said about 6 months ago initially on TD's platform. But, I got killed for that. Remember that? I got killed when I initially said that.
Yeah,
but now it looks like
proved that you're probably right. So
yeah, exactly. So, but love the kid, love the person. Just think I don't think he's an ideal scheme fit, and he just has to be. He need to get more consistent. Period.
Yeah. So my overrated player is Jerome Baker, and again,
he's mine too. He's mine.
This is Part of this isn't actually on him. Part of this is on, for me, on our fan base. And, I always hear about, because it's no secret, EM, we've gone, and that might be a saving grace for Godchild, the fact that even last year in a bad year in a new scheme, he was decent, somewhat decent against the run. When you got this guy, we're talking about this guy put up a 39.2 run defense grade according to PFF, brother. Hold on, bro. Let me
go ahead. My bad.
That Dallas game, bro, he had a 29.2 run defense grade. That game against Indianapolis, he had a 28.2 run defensive grade. But here's the thing, what do I hear from all the fans? Oh, he's good in coverage. Oh, he can cover tight ends. Well, what if I told you this, EM? He had 8 games where he allowed a reception percentage of 100%, meaning every throw targeted was completed. Now, 6 out of those 8 were when he was targeted 3 or more times, brother. There was one time where he was targeted 5 times, 4 times, 3 times, twice, 4 times. Like, that's what I'm sitting here and saying, bro. He had to complete the season. The reception percentage against him, brother, was 78.1%. Okay, he allowed 2 touchdowns. Okay, but here's where it gets really worse. Do you know what the NFL passer rating was against him this season, brother?
Bro, I can just imagine, but give it to me.
106.8. Brother, I want to tell you something. He had that game against Buffalo in Week 11, okay, against Josh Allen, all right? This man gave up a 153.5 passer rating when he was targeted by Josh Allen. He has 7 games where he allowed a passer rating over 100 against him.
Wow.
Okay, week one against Baltimore, 118.8. Week 2 against New England, 116.7. Week 4 against the Chargers, brother. Against the Chargers, 118.8, bro. Against Cleveland after Buffalo, 118.8, bro. Against the Jets, Sam Darnold in Week 14, 107.3. He allowed 4 receptions on 4 targets. Okay? When you talk about, brother, this guy, you want another scary thing? Multiple. This guy has multiple. I'm talking about he has 7 games where he was allowing yards per reception over 10, and 2 of those he was allowing yards of reception over 20. So the only thing, when I look at Jerome Baker, the only thing I see him doing well in this scheme is tackling. That's the only thing. He 94 tackles last year. You know what I mean? That was ninth most. He had 94 solo tackles. That was 9th most out of all linebackers last year. He had 20 assists, which was 20th most out of all linebackers who qualified last year. But brother, when you look at a 39.2 overall run defense grade, he had a 58.8 coverage grade. He had a 54.5 pass rush grade for an overall grade of 46.1. Brother, to me, you know what that tells me, Ian? Especially when you look at his last year, right? When you look at what he was, the player he was in 2018, when you start breaking down those grades, because against the run defense in 2018, he was a 76.3 grade. Okay, pass rush, he was a 64.6 grade. In coverage, he was a 62.8. He was an overall defensive grade of 70.2 last year, and it dropped all the way down to 46.1. You know what that tells me? Him, like Godshaw, is not meant for this scheme, and it hurts his game, brother. So people overrate him, and that's what I think a lot of people don't look deeper into the nuances of why is Jerome struggling. People just think he's having a bad year, whereas now listen to us, Dolphin fans who found us on the other platform and now have come over here have realized, guys, don't listen to Fugazi videos that get posted and say scheme fits don't matter, because that is living proof that scheme fit matters. It totally affected Jerome Baker's game outside of his tackling. And tackling, that's technique. That's not, that's not a scheme. So we talk about a guy who can't even penetrate gaps. Okay. We talk about a guy who in coverage in this scheme is getting blown up. Okay, so you know what? I know Sharif was on here before, and this is no knock to Sharif. I know he's asking, why would we move on from a guy like that when we gave him the middle linebacker last year? Well, there's proof right there. Like he and EM said, he was given that playbook. He was given those responsibilities out of necessity because there was no one else to put there. And even out of necessity, it shows how badly he struggled. And when you got guys like me and EM couldn't have been the only one noticing that Vince Beagle and Van Ginkel were taking snaps away from Jerome Baker by the end of the year. So that's going to continue happening, guys. Jerome Baker, to me, in this scheme, he is vastly overrated for what Dolphin fans perceive him to be. Okay, we have been telling you for months now. He is a 4-3 linebacker. He is not a 3-4 linebacker. And when you get into the analytics, when you break down the numbers, you literally can't even argue it. So that's where I'm at. What do you think about that, EM?
Oh, you already know, bro, how I feel about this player. We said this a year ago. You remember on the other platform, on TD's platform, when we got killed for it. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the people that were coming at us, bro, when we said this a year ago, okay? I've been telling the fan base all year long, even the other individuals that were on TD's platform, Ball Game, we all know the spirited debates Ball Game and I, consistently had over the last year about this inconsistent at best player. I've been telling y'all from day one, he's just not a fit. He's horrible in the run game, and you see. And I'm glad you brought that up about the fan base. Well, at least he's good in coverage. The numbers don't lie. The numbers contradict that statement. He's not good in coverage. And again, if you go by the players, look at the players that the Dolphins have acquired, in particular on the interior. They thinking they brought these guys in just to be special teams guys. No. Absolutely not. I told y'all last year, the last 4, 5, 6 games of the year, if you put the film on, I was just going by what I saw on film. I watched every Dolphin game I haven't recorded, and I watched them a minimum of 3 times throughout the year, minimum. And so what I consistently saw with Jerome Baker is him he had too much hesitation in terms of his reading and reacting, what the actual play the offense is running. Too much hesitation in his game, and then at the point of engagement,
it looked like he was guessing more than reading and reacting to the play.
Absolutely. And on top of that, bro, at the point of engagement, he was non-existent, wiped out consistently. He doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the functional strength. He doesn't have the anchor for a base 34 interior. And forget about deploying 2-gap techniques. Forget about that, bro. Forget about that. So, again, I said that. You look at the players they acquired. Kyle Van Noy, everybody thinks he's going to be played primarily on the edge. No, absolutely not. I don't think so. He will see snaps on the edge.
But I think it'll be him and Raekwon in that.
Him and Raekwon will be the primary inside linebackers in this base 34, which makes – and, again, we saw it last year, the deployment of Vince Beagle and Andrew Van Ginkel on the interior last year, and you saw the improvement. Okay, there was a direct correlation, in my opinion.
And they were making plays. They were making
exactly, bro. And look at how much they improved in the run game the last 5, 6, 4, 5, 6 games of the year. So again, I think him and Josh Rosen are my 2 candidates that I'm looking any day now to receive those to that email to print those tickets off for these 2 players. So again, no knock on Jerome Baker. I don't know him from a can of paint. But I've been telling y'all for a year, this kid is too inconsistent. He's not a scheme. He's not a fit for this. Because where are you going to play him? I mean, you know you're not playing him primarily on the outside. So you see how he struggles. How he struggles at the point on the interior. Imagine putting him lined up primarily on the outside, the right side or the left side when he's consistently engaged with tackles. I mean, oh my God,
up, bro.
He would get destroyed, absolutely destroyed. Yeah. So he's not a fit. There's no fit for him. So again, I hate to say, we'll wait. I look any day now to receive that email for this kid because he's just not a fit, bro. Way overrated. And I'm glad you brought those statistics because now I was just going off basically what I've seen consistently on film, and those statistics that you just articulated.
Bro, those statistics show he's a freaking disaster.
It confirmed everything I've been telling y'all. The fan base for a year now. Yeah. It's a basic confirmation.
When you get into the analytics, it shows basically what you see on film. He's not that great in coverage in this scheme. He doesn't penetrate gaps. He's basically non-existent in the run game. But like you see on film, he's a sure tackler. That's all. The only thing that the analytics don't show you is that he's athletic. But he's a sure tackler. We all know that. But when you get outside the tackling, which is, like I said, technique, when you get into scheme responsibilities and how he performs in those scheme responsibilities, it shows that he struggles with coverage in the scheme, and it shows that he struggles with run defense in the scheme. And there's no two ways about it. I mean, you put on the film, you're going to see it because basically what me and EM have been saying for a long time about Jerome Baker, we've been saying off scheme. I just went and looked into the analytics and broke them all down for my overrated section here, and they stood out to me, bro. When I looked at them yesterday, EM, you know what I said to myself? I said, I guess I did make the right pick with the overrated player. So,
but again, those statistics, they just confirm everything that we've been seeing on tape and everything we've been telling the fan base for a year now. That's it. That's all. So I don't know why it's another Josh Rosen type situation. You know, what has Baker done to warrant this undying loyalty from the fan base?
All the time. You know what it is, EM? It's a case of too many people they get too caught up in the players that they don't know, that they'll never meet, or just because they rock the jersey. And then it's the same people that once those people aren't rocking the jersey, they forget they even existed, bro. They just love every player on the team because they're rocking their team's jersey when we say fall in love with the logo, not with the player, unless the player is transcendent. And Jerome Baker's the furthest thing from transcendent, but because we've only ever had a handful of transcendent Dolphin players come through, so that's not a knock on Jerome Baker. That's just the reality of the situation. So the problem is we are in love with the logo because we want what's best for the team. Okay, so that's why we evaluate. See, the thing is, people think because we evaluate a player and that evaluation doesn't live up to their personal opinion of the player, that all of a sudden we're hating or that we don't like the player, when no, we're just going off of what the analytics and the tape tells us. That's it. This is not personal for us because we don't know this guy. Now, was Tua personal for us? Yeah, because we wanted to show all the people that were making cracks about his hip and all the people that were out there banging the table for Herbert that you were wrong, dead wrong, and we already proved that. Just watch the kid perform. Like I said, another topic for another show, but keep that same energy when he's lighting it up for your team. But what I'm sitting here and saying with Jerome Baker, with Josh Rosen is the thing to me is, bro, what have they given you to earn that undying loyalty? They haven't given you nothing.
I can't understand that for the life of me. Reason. You get into the tape, you get the analytics, you break their games down, and they're tragic. Rosen is historically bad. Historically. And these fan base, they actually wanted to pass up a prospect like Tua Tagovailoa in this draft because Rosen didn't get a fair chance. Stop it. This
you know what?
Has got to stop, man.
People are going to say
stop.
People might say I'm arrogant. But I mean, I don't know what else to say except that's a simple case of people don't know what they're talking about, bro. I mean, how else can you really label that, bro? If you went up to any viable scout of any viable scouting company or any viable team, and you said to them, who would you wait it out with Rosen or would you draft Tua, bro? What do you think the answers would? You probably I would bet money you would get a 99% or higher mark back saying, yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, bro. Like that would be a no-brainer, bro. It's just it's a case of, bro, people again, they get stuck on, oh, he was drafted 10th overall. Oh, then we traded a second-round pick. So all of a sudden it's in their head that he must be good. Like, he must be good. Like busts have never happened before where the tape has lied to people and they were wrong. I mean, we've had people on the show, that work for Blue Chip Scouting that have said he was one of, if not their highest graded quarterback coming out. And I've told everyone, and everyone can see me now, that I've been breaking down tape for quarterbacks for quite some time now. And I've said, and I've stuck to this since I joined the other platform, I was not high on this kid coming out of UCLA. I was right. There's going to be guys I'm wrong on. Like, I thought Will Greer was going to be better than what he is, or than what we saw when he took over for Kyle Allen. I really like Will Greer at West Virginia. I think his game against Texas, his senior season, his last season, he made a big-time throw to the back of the end zone that I was labeling to people, that's an NFL throw that I was always pointing to. But Will Greer looks like he's not going to work out. People are wrong. So that's me admitting, I was wrong on that. I'm not high on Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones showed, and I wasn't high on him coming out of the draft, but Daniel Jones showed me that he has that potential to be a franchise, right? So I might be wrong. This. Who was I high on, and who did I want us to draft? I wanted us to draft Kyler Murray, and he just won the freaking Rookie of the Year. Okay, so you know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's going to be people you miss. There's going to be people you're right on.
Exactly.
You want to be more right than wrong. That's all you're trying to aim for.
Exactly.
So like mock drafts, like people knock people for mock drafts. I mean, you go talk to these mock draft analysts. You talk to them behind the scenes, and they'll tell you, man, if I'm mocking for a team and I get 2 or 3 of their picks right, I've done a good job. You know what I mean? Because there's no one out there that's nailing even 50 to nail 50% of a team's mock in major media is pretty much unheard of. Right? Like, it's pretty, and people saw why. I mean, who thought they were going to take Robert Hunt at 39? Who thought they were going to trade back and take Noah at 30, right? So but you can see why things can go awry and people can be off sometimes. But, man, I just don't get it, bro. I really don't get the infatuation, and I never will, bro. It's just a matter of, hey, every team has this, bro. I talked about it before. I'm also a big-time hockey fan, Pittsburgh Penguins. Man, there was a player on that team way back. And, brother, we won Stanley Cup with this guy, Jordan Stahl. And I was telling everyone, he was our third-line center, bro. And I was telling everyone who would listen, this guy's trash, this guy's trash, this guy's trash. Because, bro, again, I have a lot of ties to hockey growing up. And now I think I've told you about, like, my nephew is basically on track to be drafted into the OHL in the next few years, right? And then from there it's NHL or Europe or whatever. But and he's also already had an NHL scout come out, and he got the same, I don't know if people know who this guy is, but he got the same scouting grade as Sebastian Aho from the Carolina Hurricanes, who's the current captain. So he got the same youth scouting grade as him. Anyways, my point of that is, there was a player, Jordan Stahl, and I was telling everyone who would listen, bro, this guy's not good. He's a product of our team. He's a product of our system. Trust me. Anyways, we ended up trading him, bro. Bro, he's not even half the player he was back when he was with us. It was just he was benefiting off better players being around him. But the thing is, I don't let homer blinders take my vision away. I stay unless you're Dan Marino or Ricky Williams, or with hockey, a Mario Lemieux or Yarmer Yager, bro, I'm going to pretty much have an objective opinion of you. You have to be a transcendent talent for me to be subjective towards you. You know what I mean? Because that's your guy, that's your player, that's your franchise piece. That's a different story. But for middle of the road guys and for even the the upper echelon who aren't quite the superstars of the team, I'm pretty objective, bro. And that's what's led to these evaluations of Josh Rosen and Jerome Baker. It's me being objective, bro. This isn't personal. Because what did we say? He's a 4-3 linebacker. So what are we saying about Jerome Baker? We're saying Jerome Baker can go to a 4-3 scheme and succeed. Well, we're saying is what the tape and what the analytics show us is in our scheme, our 3-4 scheme that we want to run right now, he is out of place. He doesn't fit. He is like when you're looking at a puzzle, he's a puzzle piece from a totally different other puzzle. He's not going to fit in.
Absolutely.
So that's a personal thing with Josh Rosen. Bro, I even said, when we talk about players getting the bus ticket, trade Josh Rosen to a team where he can battle for send him to the Jacksonville Jaguars so at least he can battle with Minshew. Okay, because we know they don't have a first-round investment in Minshew. You know what I mean? Send him somewhere like that. So, because I feel bad for the guy, I want him to get his shot. I just know it ain't here. And if anyone thinks it's here, bro, I got beach property in the middle of Omaha. I can sell you, bro. So,
yeah, man. Our fan base, they need to, again, like you said. But even if a player's well, I've gotten better at that over the years. But even if a player is quote unquote transcendent, I'm still gonna do my best, and it will evaluate them, accordingly. But and I've been consistent about Tua. We could be sitting here 3 years from now, and as much as I love Tua Tagovailoa, if that dude is not performing, bro, I'll be sitting here putting that fire to his behind, just like I've been doing Josh Rosen for the last year. So, but even when they're transcendent guys, you still have to evaluate them, be as objective as possible, because you don't want to. Me personally, I'm just speaking for myself. I don't want to mislead anybody on this platform. We have to, and not to say that you would do that, but but even when the players are quote unquote transcendent, you still have to be as objective as possible in their evaluation.
People thought we wanted Tua because we wanted to be right instead of logically thinking, hey, maybe we saw someone on tape who looked like he has the ability to be transcendent at the next level, and we want that for our team who hasn't had a quarterback in 20 years. You ever thought about that? That maybe it's not a man crush, maybe it's like, holy Christ, this guy looks amazing on tape. He's, you go to the footwork, the anticipation, able to manipulate with his eyes, the ball placement, understanding inside, outside leverage. He's so advanced the way pre-snap he can pick up blitzes and shred them. You know what I mean? Like, you look at so many aspects of this game, whether intangibles or whether talent or whether physical ability, and you see so many flags that say this guy might be a perennial Pro Bowler, this guy might be transcendent. Bro, that's just because we want that on our team, not because we have a man crush on the player, bro.
Absolutely.
But let's get into our most underrated players, and let's start with you. And I'm going to preface this with a guy that I suggested and EM snatched away from me. I'll just shout out to you. But let's start off with your boy.
This is my guy, okay? This is my guy. Shout out to the homie, Nick Needham, baby. We riding with you, homie. We riding with you. Yeah, this kid, we all know his story, undrafted, University of Texas, El Paso. Literally, again, kudos to the coaching staff for finding this kid literally under a rock down there in El Paso, Texas. Got off to a rocky start, we all know last year. I attribute that to being he didn't have his body right, and I've read articles where he's stated that, he just wasn't in NFL shape. Okay, so he was on a practice squad. Well, we had him. They cut him and then signed him to the practice squad. And the kid, credit to him, did he pout? Did he whine? Did he say, I didn't get a fair chance? No. He just put his head down and got to work. And we saw the results of his, just from that, that time frame of the preseason to when they inserted him when they signed him they brought him up to the active roster and they started, implementing him more in the game plan. You saw the results on the field that we got from him last year. Very good player. I think, just like any player, especially an undrafted player, there's refinement needed there. But Needham has all of the qualities you look for in this base press man scheme. We talk about his ability at the line of scrimmage, his ability to disrupt at the line of scrimmage, his ability to reroute wide receivers. His feet, his hips are his strong suit, in my opinion, because this kid, his change of direction is off the charts. And I think that's what, during the pre-draft process last year, it's a website that I follow. And obviously being in Texas, I try to follow a lot of players that are coming out of, different schools within Texas. So Nick Needham, he popped up on my radar screen. So I started, reading articles about him, started doing a little more research about him. And then I started digging into his film. And I was like, man, I think that when they played Tennessee, that game is what really stuck out to me. I think it was a Tennessee game. And I think that was the only game that he played like a power, a Division I school, I believe. I think Tennessee was the only team that they played last year. I'm sorry, not last year, but while he was at UTEP, and he flashed. I mean, jumped off the screen, bro. So I've been following him for a while. I was hoping the Dolphins would select him, draft him, or get him sign him as an undrafted free agent. And that obviously came to fruition. And I think the sky's the limit for this kid. Another year of, working on his body, transforming his body. That's all he really needed to do, because the requisite skill set was there from jump. His feet, his hips, his long speed, his hand placement at the line of scrimmage, they were all there. This kid just needed to get his body refined. And if you follow myself and Reason, you'll see a lot of videos that we post of him working out, since the season ended. And he's been putting in that work, because you can see his body is totally transformed at this point. And again, I just think that, the sky's the limit for him. But why I think he's underrated is because I think people are thinking, when they selected Noah Igbenogany at 30, that threw everybody for a loop. Mm-hmm. So everybody was asking, well, damn, what about Nick Needham? Where does he fit in the long-term plans, or even just next year? Where does he fit in the game plan? And again, I think the objective of of our defense this year, okay, keep in mind our new defensive coordinator was a defensive backs coach. So I think the objective of this team, of this defense, is to get all four of those cornerbacks on the field together as much as possible. Because I think, obviously, the presence of Xavier Howard, and everything is predicated on his health now. If Xavier Howard comes back healthy, you already know the player that Byron Jones is. You have Nick Needham. You saw the improvement on a week-to-week basis last year, and then you get this first-round pick. I mean, again, I think the objective, they are trying to get all four of these cornerbacks on the field as much as possible this year. And if they are able to do that, if they are able to hold up and improve in their statistics and in their run defense from last year, I'm telling you, we could be looking at a top five. Definitely our secondary will be minimum top five. But I mean, our overall defense will definitely have a top 10 defense, in my opinion, next year. And that bodes well. That would bode well for us in terms of playoff rankings or whatnot. But again, he's underrated. I don't think he's underrated, but I've seen a lot of the fan base, even over the course of last year, I don't think they really realized, how good this player could potentially be. I think Needham's ceiling is Pro Bowl level. And I said that last year, in week, last year back in October. And because, again, he just needed to transform his body, just like a lot of players making that jump from the collegiate level to the NFL level. They need NFL refinement, and and a lot of that comes with getting in NFL shape, and that's all he needed to do. And as long as he continues to put the work in, he continues to dedicate himself to his craft. I think we have, again, I think his ceiling could be Pro Bowl level. But again, I just think I'm not going to put that expectation, that unnecessary pressure on him. Just be a solid, productive player. Look at the New England Patriots. Their defensive backs. Do they get the recognition nationally in terms of the Pro Bowl or whatnot? No, but they're excellent within that scheme. They're excellent what they're being asked to do within that scheme. And I think Nick Needham will be a significant contributor moving forward. But again, I just think the fan base thinks I don't think he's underrated, but I think the fan base have been sleeping on how good this kid was to come from the practice squad, to come from an undrafted status to practice squad and being our number one corner net last year. And the kid performed. I mean, you couldn't ask him to perform any better than he did, especially considering where he came from. So again, I love this kid. I can't wait to see his further development down the road. But I just think the fan base in general has him a little underrated.
Yeah. So I think a lot of there's people out there who want us to get Logan Ryan, and I've actually interacted with some of them. And that's the guy they're writing off as Nick Needham. But I want to highlight 3 games specifically. I want to highlight week 6 against Washington, and then week 10 at Indianapolis, and week 11 against Buffalo. So week 6 against Washington, brother, he had an overall grade of 86.1, and he had an 88 coverage grade. When you're going against Indianapolis, he had an overall grade of 90.3. He had a run defense grade in that game of 74.6. A tackling grade of 81.1, and a coverage grade of 90.6. And then week 11 against Buffalo. So his second time playing Buffalo, when he's kind of struggled a little bit the first time. He was only targeted twice the first time out against Buffalo, but he gave up both of his receptions for a total of 32 yards. But the second time around against Josh Allen targeted him 11 times and only got 5 receptions out of it, for 45.5 reception percentage and only 84 yards on those 5 receptions.
And that's against John Brown as well, one of the better receivers in the league.
Yeah, and when you look at he managed to not give up. I mean, he gave up 1 touchdown, but the guy gave up only 9 touchdowns over the course of the year. The thing was, when you look at his game against Indianapolis, though, bro, he gave up an NFL passer rating of 11.5.
Yeah, he was
that was the only thing. You look at him, and I don't like the passer rating he gave up this year. It was 116.6. But he did have multiple games. He had a game where he only gave up a passer rating of 67%. Like I said, 11.5%. And his first game in the NFL, he only gave up a passer rating of 39.6. He's another sure tackler, right? He had 45 tackles, 9 assists. But the thing is, what I noticed when I got into the analytics was only 2 games, okay, out of every game he started. We talk about Byron Jones. We talk about how they want to bring in guys where if they create a tight window on you and you make the catch, Brian Flores wants the guy out there. He wants to be able to trust that guy, as soon as you make that catch, you're going down to the turf, okay? You're getting tackled right away. There's no yard. And when I look at this, bro, he hasn't really been killed on yak. There's 4 games he started where he allowed a yak of under 10 yards total for the whole game. And there's only 2 games out of all starts where he allowed more than 20 yards yak in a game. And that tells me, when you look at it, right, that tells me, I think he had, 12, 13 starts? Man, when only 2 of those starts – you're only allowing over 20 yards yak. That means as soon as they catch it, they're getting put down to the turf and they're not making something happen out of it. Man, that shows me the only way you're going to beat Nick Needham is you're going to beat him on the route, because if he's around you when you catch that football, you're going right down. And he's a sure tackler, man. Like
absolutely,
absolutely. And he's decent in the pass rush too when they bring him up to the line of scrimmage.
And his ability to tackle, how aggressive he is, that'll bode well if him possibly transitioning to free safety. That'll bode well for him. You know what I mean? Again, there's a lot of versatility with this kid. And look at how he was deployed. Look at his deployment. He traveled with the opposing team's best receiver. Okay? You know what I mean? Lined up in the slot, left boundary, right boundary. This kid, there's a lot of versatility to this kid's game. Did he give up plays last year? Absolutely. But when I evaluated him last year, if you go back and you look at the majority of plays that he gave up, they were in zone coverage. The majority of them were in zone coverage. But again, that's a lack of experience. You know what I mean? So does he need NFL refinement? Absolutely. Just like any number 1 overall pick. But this kid was undrafted. But to see the growth from practice squad, then bringing him up to the active roster and inserting him into the starting lineup, look at the growth from what we saw in preseason into what we saw at the end of the season last year. Again, if he continues on that trajectory, we have a very, very good player, moving forward. So again, he's just going to get better because you're going to see him even be better this year because he won't be locked up on the opposing team's number 1 wide receiver every week now because of Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. This kid will be seeing the opposing team's 3rd, 4th, 5th best receiver on a week-to-week basis. So again, you're going to see you should see increased production. So again, I think, in my opinion, I don't have any intel or anything that I don't have a source or anybody telling me this, but this is just my opinion. I think the goal. Why would you select? You have Xavier Howard, you have Byron Jones, you've got an emerging player with Nick Needham. When Miami took Noah with the 30th pick, okay, that told me this is just my opinion. I just think the goal is to get all of these players on the field together as much as possible, and that just bodes well overall for this defense and ultimately this team, bro, because I just don't see how opposing teams, maybe with the exception of the Kansas City Chiefs, I just don't see any team on our schedule that's going to be able to consistently threaten us through the air. I just don't see it. I just do not see it. I just don't. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think, in my opinion, like I said, that's the objective, and I think it's smart. You've got 2 elite corners on the outside, but you got 2 very good corners, especially athletically. On the interior, again, it's going to bode well for us, bro. Definitely.
I just want to, because we got someone in the comments asking a question, so I'm going to address them directly without pulling it out. So someone said, Nick Needham was as bad as Jerome Baker in coverage. That's not true at all, brother, because first of all, hold on, let me just break this down before you go. Overall, let's give you the overall grades, okay? The overall defensive grade, okay? Nick Needham had a 60.8 defensive grade last year. That was good for being the 69th out of 112 cornerbacks graded, okay? Jerome Baker had a 46.1 grade, which was good for being the 75th out of 89 linebackers graded. Okay, now let's go to coverage. Let's stick to coverage because just as cool as that's about coverage. Nick Needham had a 61.0 coverage grade. Jerome Baker had a 58.1. Okay, let's go to pass rush. Just pass rush. Nick Needham had a 67 grade in pass rush. Jerome Baker had a 54.5. Okay, run defense grade. Okay, Nick Needham had a 61.4. Jerome Baker had a 39.2. So let's remember, Nick Needham's overall grade is a 60.8. Jerome Baker's is 46.1. Not even close.
He's talking about in coverage, bro. Jerome Baker is guarding. He's defending he's covering running backs and tight ends. This dude is covering the opposing team's number 1 wide receiver. Are you serious?
Yeah, and he still put up a better coverage grade than Jerome Baker.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah.
Well, who said that? Who asked that? Who
I
said
believe that
that?
was Just Ice Cool. An interesting thing, though.
Oh man, bro, come on.
You know what's going to be interesting to see? Kevon Frazier, bro, because I mean, I don't know if you've looked into him, but I was looking at his analytics yesterday, and man, this guy had a 74.9 defensive grade last year, bro. He was 72.4 in the run, and he was 66.6 in coverage.
Who was that?
Frazier, the special teams / safety we brought in from Dallas. Like he's shown flashes. So that'll be.
That's right. I forgot. I forgot we brought him in, bro.
So that'll be. Hey, and you know who else people are sleeping on? And I actually was going to put him on my underrated, but I
decided, kid from Cincinnati.
No, Stephen Parker.
Stephen Parker.
Mm-hmm. The safety we have.
Stephen Parker.
Yeah, man.
Refresh my memory, bro.
Stephen Parker, he's the kid we got from Oklahoma in 2018.
Stephen Parker. Why is that not registering with me, bro?
24. 6'1", 210 pounds. He's number 26. Anyways, Stephen Parker, bro, on a limited amount of snaps. I mean, he had 202 coverage snaps, and he had 339 total defensive snaps. Bro, he put up a 71 defensive grade last year, bro, overall. He was ranked 30th out of 88 qualifying safeties, bro. Bro, he put up a 70.5 coverage grade and a 68.4 run defense grade. So, I mean, he didn't have as many snaps, as like an Eric Rowe, because, I mean, Eric Rowe had over 1,000 snaps. But, he put up – and, Jamal Wilkes, bro, now Jamal Perry – bro, when I went into him, bro, I don't see how he laughed, my friend. He ranked 111th out of 112 qualified corners that were graded last year, bro. He was bad. He had 600 snaps, so it wasn't even like he didn't have a good – because Needham only had 143 more, and Needham was 69th.
But again, if you transition him to safety –
and that's another thing, dude.
You know what I mean?
If Nick Needham would have started the season and he would have had 1,000 snaps, who's to say his grades wouldn't have went up? You know what I mean? So,
but again, in reference to Jamal Wilkes, again, transition him to, because I think they basically converted him, I think, full time to safety. I think maybe midpoint through the year, I believe. But again, he's another young developmental player that flashed. You know what I mean? He needs refinement, just like Needham needs refinement, just like any player. But I think maybe why they didn't, pull the trigger in terms of in the draft getting the players like Winfield of the world.
I just want to say this. C. Hoffel, I've probably watched more film than NFL football games you've watched in your life. So I wouldn't even go there, brother. You can take your subscription with you and bounce out of the comments if you want, brother.
Oh, he said y'all watch stats, not film.
Bro, if we watch stats and not film, why were we so right on Tua Tagovailoa while that whole other platform was so wrong on him? Holla at me, bro.
And we'll see again. We'll see moving forward.
Okay.
We will see moving forward what we say.
We basically predicted free agency because we watch film. Okay.
Exactly.
We basically predicted how many players in this draft, bro, because we watch film. So get out of here.
Don't worry. We'll see.
Because this guy's hurt over Jerome Baker, I think. That's what it is.
We will continue to see how our declarations come to fruition. We'll see. Yeah, and we told y'all that in the beginning. That's how you know what people are talking about. When they sit up here and when they give you their evaluation and it's aligned with the team's evaluation.
They don't give you an evaluation, bro.
You know what I mean?
You hear evaluation, bro. You hear, oh, he's going to prove you wrong. Okay, well, how? Tell us how he's going to prove you wrong. And they can't,
know, right?
Like, let's go down to this. Even the obscure picks of Solomon McKinley and Robert Hunt, we were talking about them being possibilities the night before on our final mock draft leading up.
Exactly.
Even the obscure picks. Curtis Weaver, go talk to anyone in the chat that's been here since we were on the other platform. Who was the first person naming him while all y'all were talking about Chase Young and AJ Epinesa?
Absolutely.
way, bro. Me and EM been talking about Raekwon Davis for
oh my God.
how long? And hold on, even when I went live on the other platform, what did I say? They need to take Raekwon at 56, and they can't play around. What number did they select Raekwon Davis at? Can you remind me?
I think it was 56. I think.
Oh, well, let's keep it real. When they were at 30, and I was on the other platform, and they were and everyone was guessing who it was going to be, I could have swore that I was the one saying, "Watch, it's going to be that kid from Auburn that they drafted heavily." Who called that one?
And here's the killer. Benito Jones. We talked about this kid. We talked about him on our evaluation show, bro. Okay, he was number 6. We talked about him privately, extensively, me and Reason, and we both agreed on our evaluation of him. And bam, look who the first player they snatched up in free agency, UDFAs. So again, we're not.
It don't get more obscure than Benito Jones, okay? So holla at me on that one, all right?
I know, right? And again, we're not sitting up here boasting. We're just telling you when you sit up here and you come at us like that and try to discredit our evaluation and what we do to put in the work that we put into the evaluation process, bro. You need to stop that, man. You need to stop that nonsense, bro. Look at our track record and compare it with a lot of national-based platforms, on their declarations in terms of the draft and free agency. So again, we're not sitting up here, tooting our own horns or anything like that. We're just stating facts. But when you get these people that come at us like that, bro, the track record speaks for itself. You can sit here and whine all you want about what we don't do or what we do. Look at the track record.
You know what I mean? Holla at me, bro. So Jeff Premont asked about the Ruiz story, brother. We already, I don't know if you've been following, but we said it on TD platform and we've been saying on this platform weeks. I was the first one to say it, that from what I understood, we were taking Cesar Ruiz at 26, and that's why we traded back for Noah Igbenogany.
Oh, my God. Oh, bro.
I was saying this weeks ago, bro, and it literally – and it people are talking about the story that leaked over the weekend, but from people I talked to, that was already common knowledge 3-4 weeks ago when I was already talking about it. So that's why we didn't talk about it this weekend, because go look at our video with Dante. Remember, EM can even tell you, I brought up in the interview with Dante about the Austin Jackson pick. I said, does it make you more comfortable with the Austin Jackson pick at 18? Because from what I understand, they were going to take Cesar Ruiz at 26. And because he wasn't there, they traded back. Again, something we were, specifically me, but it's we, whether it's me or him that drops it, it's we. We were weeks ahead of that curve saying Cesar Ruiz was the target at 26. That's why they reached for Austin Jackson at 18. This is something we've already covered, man. So,
we got laughed at. Remember, I got laughed at when we were talking about leading up. It was on the other platform, TD's platform, and leading up to the draft process in terms of addressing the offensive line. I initially said this is after free agency. We were on, it was one of the Tuesday panel shows. And I said, what I would do at this point, okay, I would draft Ruiz at some point, between 18 or 20, either 18 or 26, preferably 26. And I would play him at right guard, and, that way he can get on the field immediately. Yeah. And that's exactly what the New Orleans Saints are doing right now.
That's why Warford's gone, because Ruiz replaced him.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're doing. And so we got laughed at, though. We got laughed at when we said that. So stop it. Y'all need to stop it with this foolishness, bro.
And you're right. Just Ice Cool, you are right. When the story did leak this weekend, it was included with Brandon Ayuk being targeted where, San Fran ended up taking him. But I don't know if EM saw this, but beside the Ruiz leak, it was leaked that Brandon Ayuk was the other target for us at 26, but the San Francisco 49ers did.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
So, but let's get into the last player on those lists, guys. And it's going to be my underrated player. And my underrated player is someone that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, and that's Ryan Fitzpatrick. And the reason why a lot of people are sleeping on him, obviously is because of the Tua Tagovailoa addition. And I think any one of you that are out there saying that you think Josh Rosen is going to beat Ryan Fitzpatrick out come off the training camp going into the season, I think you're sleeping on him too. Because, I mean, when you look at him, bro, I mean, this guy last year, what are you going to say that you didn't like about what our boy Ryan Fitzpatrick did? You know what I mean? I mean, the guy had, in 580 dropbacks, he had 502 attempts, but he still managed to put up, 3,529 yards, which was 17th best in the NFL. I know, the 19 passing touchdowns to the 13 interceptions is what people want to see a little bit better in terms of the interceptions go down. But when you look at his last couple of years, I mean, this graded out as, man, would you believe me if I told you that other than his 2018 year in Tampa Bay, where he had those 3 first magnificent games, this was his best offensive grade of his entire career, dating back to 2018.
Wow,
he had a 76.5 offensive overall grade. He had a 75.6 passing grade, which was his second best because his first best was 82.9 with Tampa. But his run grade was also 60.9. But, bro, when you look at it, when you dive into the numbers, man, I mean, this guy, he still took 40 sacks, and he was still managing to go out there and, completion.
And he had
finished with a 62 completion percentage, which is fantastic. And his average yards per attempt was 7, which is fantastic. As long as it's over usually 5.5, 6, it's pretty good. And you look
and he had the 4th most drops in the entire NFL?
He had 31 drops in total. He had the 4th most in the NFL. And I mean, some of his best games, he suffered. Like, you go back to the game against New England, right? Where he's 28 of 41, 68.3 completion percentage, 320 yards. Buddy, he had 4 drops. Check this out. Against the Giants in Week 15, he had 7 drops against him. Buffalo and Cleveland, weeks 11 and week 12, back-to-back weeks of 4 drops in each game. Check this out. Week 7 against Buffalo, week 8 against Pittsburgh, week 9 against the Jets. He had 2 drops against him in each game. Brother, he only had 4 games all season where he didn't have a drop suffered against him. And he only had 2 games all season where he only had 1 drop against him. So we're talking about a guy who we're into the double digits of. This guy had double-digit multiple drop games, bro. And he still managed to make it work, bro. And I think a lot of people are forgetting about him because of, what we invested in terms of draft capital with Tua Tagovailoa. But we're talking about a guy who we've stressed it all the time. One thing that Flores, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's, an edge rusher, whether it's a linebacker, whether it's a receiver, whatever, they want structure in your game. And for one time, let's say this, okay? Last year, okay, in 2018 with Tampa, okay? Brother, he still had 12 interceptions, and he didn't start nearly as many games as he did with us because they yanked him.
Exactly.
And he still had 12 interceptions. I mean, when you break it down, okay, when you look at this guy, when he played with the Jets in 2016, 17 interceptions. 2015, 15 interceptions. Tennessee in 2013, 12 interceptions.
Structure.
2012, all 3 seasons when he was with Buffalo, okay? And when he was a starter there, okay? 15 interceptions in 2010, 24 in 2011, and 16 in 2012. When you actually break down, other than, we got in terms of production and, limiting the mistakes, this was one of his better seasons.
Structure. Can you say structure? I'm telling you, Reason, we all know, and on the other platform, how I was consistently ridiculed when I've been talking about the structure in the overall discipline that I saw on tape. Those numbers that you just highlighted is a confirmation what I consistently saw on tape last year. And again, you said all of that, what he was able to achieve, and also, you know, with the worst running game in the 100+ year history of this league, and he led the team in rushing.
What if I were to tell you? Because people in the comments are calling him average, and we get that. But what if I were to tell you, out of 37 total graded quarterbacks last year by PFF, his 76.5 overall offensive grade was 14th best out of all 37 qualifying quarterbacks, and add on to that, he had the 8th best QBR in the NFL.
Again,
we got a top 15 quarterback last year, performance-wise.
Exactly. Without, I just don't think the fan base gets how difficult it is to make from an offensive standpoint, from the quarterback position, how difficult that is for a quarterback to consistently and routinely make plays without a benefit of a running game. I don't think they understand that, because if you don't have a running game, the windows shrink because you have more people in coverage. You can it's so many from a disguise standpoint, it's so many other things you can do to confuse a quarterback, okay, when you don't have to worry about a running game. You're dropping more people in the coverage, which shrinks all of the windows, which shrinks the windows. So that, again, and then on top of that, what he's seeing, the lack of consistent windows to put the ball in, and on top of that, with the worst offensive pass blocking offensive line in the entire league. I don't think the fan base realized how difficult that is, bro. I really don't. So with that being said, I've been saying that all year. I got, consistently ridiculed on the other platform. I think we are seeing a renaissance in this young man's career. I think with the improvement of what is around him, what's in front of him in terms of the offensive line, with the running backs, with a player like Matt Breida, we have actually an elite athlete coming out of the backfield that can actually consistently catch the football. I'm telling you, we are seeing. I want to see Tua Tagovailoa just like everybody else. But again, I think we have seen we could be sitting here, and I'll say it again, we could be sitting at this point next year, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is coming off a potential Pro Bowl season with the improvement of what's around him. If he maintains that structure, if he maintains that discipline, could he revert back to Fitzpatrick? At Fitzpatrick at some point, he might do that. He might. But I'm telling you, I saw consistent from his mechanics to his decision making, as well as, you can go down to ball placement. Again, I watch every game minimum of 3 times every year. And I'm telling you, I was just talking about when we had this discussion over the course of last year, I was articulating just the growth that I saw, the consistent growth in this man's game I think it started with the Washington game when he was a starter for remainder of the season. But your numbers, bro, the analytics analytics is just another confirmation of that, bro.
He kind of, and you notice, even though he has 13 interceptions, he started making than what I had seen, especially going back to the Jets and the Buffalo Bills when we saw him a lot. You saw him making a lot better pre-snap reads. He was noticing this guy's coverage is a lot better. You especially noticed it when you went from Rosen to him. But another thing, too, is I think we saw him have to be the best improviser he had ever been in his career, and it worked. And we talked about the offensive line, bro. Let me just hit you with something. Out of 81 guards graded last year, Michael Dieter finished 79th with a 42.5 overall grade. Shaq Calhoun was 76th with a 44.2 overall grade. And then when you go to tackles, Julian Davenport was 68th out of 81 graded tackles, and Jesse Davis was 63 out of 81 graded tackles. But when you look at what we added, Eric Flower finished 30th out of 81 graded guards last year, and Ted Karras finished 20th out of 37 graded centers last year. So you can see already the additions they've added look like superior upgrades compared to what he was working with last year. And that's not even including Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt, Solomon Kinley, Nick Holtmeyer, Jonathan Hubbard, Donald Stanley, et cetera, right? So I just
and see,
when you look at what he had last year with the no running game and the no offensive line. Well, now we've added significant pieces to that offensive line. It's just a matter of whether they will work out. And then when you look at our running game, we've added that Thunder and Lightning combination with Jordan Howard and Matt Breida that is going to alleviate the pressure, because once you get that running game open, play action opens up. RPO will become more viable and easy, and you'll have more defenses.
Windows get bigger.
They'll have to respect.
Windows get bigger.
Yeah, they'll have to respect the run. You know what I mean? And see, one thing, like I was going to say, teams probably laughed in defensive team meetings when someone suggested, "Oh, coach, do we have to stack the box against these guys?" I mean, did that conversation even happen last year?
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. And again, that's why I think we could see a significant spike in his overall production. Because if the offensive line improves up front, and this will be beneficial to the overall offense. What have I been consistently saying when you talk about the quarterback position? When I referenced Lamar Jackson a couple streams ago, there's a ceiling to a player that relies on improvisation as his number one asset in his aspect of his game. Okay. In the NFL, there's a ceiling to that. You're only going to get so far. And see, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had to rely so much because of the lack of protection that we gave him, the lack of running game, and the lack of protection that we gave him last year. He had to rely so much on his improvisation. But if we are better up front, we get solidified up front, and we can actually give this man consistent 2.5 to 3.5 seconds to actually survey the field and make consistent on-scheduled plays, that is where the spike in production will come from, because you're going to force teams to again, I tell people this all the time. How you win in the NFL is you have to force teams to prepare for the structure, the on-scheduled plays, and when they commit to that, that is when you gut them with the improvisation. And that is why primarily, again, it all starts up front. If you give this kid time, if we improve up front, and this kid he can rely less on his improvisation and more on the structure of the offense. Again, it's all about his decision making, his discipline, and his decision making. Because if he continues on that trajectory that we saw him on last year, there is no doubt in my mind we could see a significant increase in his production at that position next year. So again, that's why I was like, man, bro, Fitz, to me, he played considering what he had, what the hand was dealt to him in terms of what he had up front. I'm telling you, he played extremely well. And a lot of people in a lot of NFL circles feel the same way. I was like, man, this kid, I mean, just go put that New England tape on. I mean, look at the ball, the consistent ball placement. And again, that's against, at that time, a defense that was playing at a historically high level. And I mean, this kid was just, and our offensive line up front, to be honest with you, played, better than they had been playing in previous weeks as well. So again, Fitz, I'm telling you, man, that kid, I got immense respect for him, considering what he had to deal with, what was in front of him last year, the year he had last year. And again, I am ecstatic either with him or Tua, either one. Okay, but I think the ideal situation for me, I'm gonna ride Fitz. And I would rather Tua sit and learn from him again. And that's all about whether or not how healthy Tua is and how well he's playing in practice. If he's blowing Fitz away, you know what I mean? Okay, obviously Tua gives us the best chance to win. But I want to see next year, ideally, I would love to see him just wait. And, we take the Kansas City approach. that they took with Patrick Mahomes in terms of, getting him acclimated to the NFL, into the starting lineup at times, you know what I mean? Sprinkle him in here and there. But I want to see where Fitz, I heard him say it when they interviewed him. He said, bro, I truly believe my best football is ahead of me. I truly believe that. And I do as well. So again, I think the fan base, bro, they've been sleeping on this kid. They've been sleeping on him all year long, and it's a shame. But if you dig into the film, and again, I didn't know the statistics per se that Reason just articulated. I was just going based off film study. And again, the analytics basically confirms what I saw consistently on tape from that Washington game on to the end of the year. Confirms everything. So we'll see, man. We will see.
I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how this season goes, especially with him. And it's going to be interesting to see, how this offensive line improves in front of him. And it's going to be interesting to see if this run game really does come together like we hope and expect it to, because, that is going to be essential to some of his success, I think, this year, bro.
I agree. And again, we saw in Reason, we talked about this the other day about how tired we saw his arm was in stretches in the second half of the season last year. Again, that's because he had to throw the freaking ball every down because there was no running game. It was no running game. So, anybody, Tua's arm would get tired if he had to sit up there and throw the ball as many times as Fitz did last year, because we had no other means of moving the football. But if you give him a running game that he can lean on, that's going to preserve him, especially down the stretch. And you'll see with that benefit, like you referenced, the play action, that's going to benefit in terms of the chunk plays that we would get, as opposed to him throwing the football, to score a touchdown. He had to throw the ball maybe 10, 11, 12, 13 times during that, on that drive. With the benefit of the running game, that'll be cut in half. But you'll be able to, with the commitment of the running game, and it opens up play action, okay, you can either duplicate that yardage that you had, that it took 12, 13 throws on that particular drive. You can duplicate that kind of production on half the throws because of the benefit of the play action. Because when you force teams to have to to commit to the line of scrimmage, 6, 7, 8 in a box, okay, everything else on the back end opens up. So again, if you understand how football, the game is actually played, okay, I just don't understand how you can just discount what this man was able to do last year without that running game. So again, it's all predicated on how well we are improved. But again, anything is an improvement. Again, they don't have to come in and be the Tennessee Titans of last year, bro. All they have to do is improve upon the worst running game in the 100-plus year history of this league. So it's not, again, they don't have to come in and be the San Francisco 49ers. But anything is an improvement. But you want to see a significant increase and improve. You want to see that ideally. But again, I'm telling you, the fan base, for the most part, bro, they have been sleeping on what this kid was able to do. But I just think a lot of them don't understand how the game of football is played and how difficult teams have. It's difficult when you have a balanced offense, but when you have an unbalanced offense, especially when you don't have, there's no threat of the running game, and the quarterback has to sit back and throw the ball 25, 30 times a game, bro. That is extremely difficult. You hear quarterbacks say it all the time. You hear your Tom Peyton Mannings, your Tom Brady's. If you go back and you look at your Peyton Mannings, when they had, any quarterback that have had historically great seasons, they always had the benefit of a running game. You look at Peyton Manning, he always had Edgerrin James, okay? Tom Brady, New England has always had top 10 rushing offenses every year. So again, understand if they get into film room and develop an understanding of how the game of football is played, bro, you would have a better appreciation of what he was able to do last year. Was he Patrick Mahomes? Did he throw 53 touchdowns last year? No. But again, I think Fitz, the best is ahead of him. And again, it all starts up front.
Yeah, because remember when we got into that ESPN, we were one of the worst teams in the league when it came to pass block win rate too this year, right? I remember we got into those numbers a couple shows ago, and I mean, we're talking about
horrible.
Like a bunch of our guys were in not even the bottom half, but the lower tier, right? I think there was 171 total linemen that were graded, and our highest guy was 146, and we had a bunch in the 160s. I can't find the stat where I had it written down right now, but it was pretty bad, bro. And it's going to be interesting to see, if we can get that pass block win rate up a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how this team does and how Fitzpatrick performs, especially because maybe he will have that late career renaissance, like Rich Gannon that we've talked about. You know what I mean?
And bro, and we've got the skill position players to do that. We've got the weaponry on the outside to do that. And I think Albert Wilson, if we improved in terms of our protection up front, you'll see the impact. Okay, and you might not necessarily see it in like yardage per se, because I think the goal will be to distribute the football all around the field. I would think they're going to highlight one guy. That's just not what I don't think that would be a philosophy of Flores's. But we've got the weaponry, you know what I mean? But if they just give him time to consistently survey the field, bro, and distribute the football accordingly, you know what you're going to see it in just the overall impact, bro. I'm telling you, we could be sick. This kid could have I keep calling him kid, but this dude could have a very, very productive season. Even, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised when we're sitting here and he having a Pro Bowl caliber season next year, bro. I really will truly.
Yeah, I found it, bro. So of 171 qualified NFL offensive linemen last season, Michael Dieter was 146th. Boeheim was 149th. Calhoun was 165th. Davenport was 169th. Jesse Davis was 170th, and Jamarcus Webb was the 171st. So they all finished 146 or worse in ESPN's pass block win rate stats. That's very, very bad because pass block win rate
horrible.
I mean, and then when you look at how PFF ranked them, right? PFF on the flip side, out of 83 tackles ranked, Jesse Davis was 63, Davenport was 69, Jamarcus Webb was 83. When you go to guards ranked, Evan Boeheim was out of 83. Boeheim was 74, Calhoun was 77, Dieter was 80. And then last year, Daniel Kilgore was the 17th center out of 38. But like I said, Karras is the 20th. So, I mean, whether you're PFF or you're going to ESPN analytics, it was not a good situation for Fitzpatrick to be behind last year. And the fact that he did that is absolutely ridiculous when you actually put it into context, right?
I'm telling you, man. I have tons of respect for him.
And guys, I see you guys are talking about a couple of games. I see Just Ice Cube was talking about the Denver game. Just going to give you all a little bit of a heads up. Right now, the game, I might be out there for 2 games this year, back to back. I'm going to try and make it out there for I've already talked to the wife and such. I'm going to try and get out there for the Chargers game on October 25th. And then I'm going to be out in Orlando for a couple weeks, so I'll probably catch the Rams game at the beginning of November as well. So I'm just giving you all a heads up.
You might catch us both out there. We might do a stream from the game, a live stream. You never know. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe like a meet and greet, get some drinks, get some soda pops before the game with everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, guys, let's we'll take a few people on. We'll see if any of y'all are even around and want to come on right now. I will take a few of you backstage. Just give us your most overrated, most underrated players, and I want to know what you guys think of the whole Rooney Rule situation going on right now. So I dropped the link. I invite everyone. I know there's only 64 of you. I invite all of you, any of you, to hit the link, come backstage, and I want to hear who your overrated, underrated players are, and I want to hear what you guys think of the Rooney rule change, and then the Rooney rule proposal that was proposed earlier this weekend. Yeah, so here's the thing. If things go awry, we could be there for Justin Herbert versus Tua Tagovailoa, brother. And if any of you people who wanted Herbert are in those stands and I see you, I'm going to be hammering you when Tua's lighting them up, bro. Real talk. You know what I mean?
I'm looking at they have Fitzpatrick's tape, that New England game. I'm watching it on Twitter right now. He just carved up the New England Patriots secondary.
On the last drive?
Nah. Well, they're showing highlights for the whole game. Man, look. You know, and again, it starts at his base. You look at his feet, bro. Always aligned. Everything is always aligned. When they actually give him time. His feet, his hips, his shoulders, his eyes, everything, his arm, everything is aligned, bro. All the way through. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you go back and look at his pass tape, Fitzpatrick normally was like all over the place in terms of his mechanics, bro. He never was, in my opinion. And again, I didn't follow Fitzpatrick, obviously, because he was a Dolphin, but, from what, since last year, I've gone back and looked into his, games that he's previously played. And, man, you just saw the lack of discipline, bro. And again, everything starts up, with your mechanics, everything.
For sure.
Look at his feet. Bam. 1, 2, 3. Bam. The ball's out of his hands. So.
You know what, bro? It's 10:30. We're running on 2 hours. I don't really want to run into a 3-hour show tonight.
There's nobody backstage?
We're going to be back. I don't think anyone's come backstage yet. And I don't really want to run into a 3-hour show tonight. So
okay, cool. That's
you know what? We'll just because we ran 2 hours just by ourselves, and I didn't expect that at all. I expected us to get through all of that in an hour. So you know what, guys? We're gonna hold off on having you guys on tonight, and then we're gonna be back Wednesday. Where y'all are finally gonna get that edge evaluation show from EM. Give them a little preview of what you're going to be talking about, EM, in terms of the players you're going to be talking about, assignments, coverages, etc.
Well, I'm just going to be highlighting, again, I'm going to go over, basically what are, the defense that we could be potentially, the different formations that will be in deployment this year. And I'll be highlighting the players, basically the techniques and the skill set that is desired from Brian Flores. And I will be highlighting the different players, obviously, that we acquired in free agency and in the draft. And I'm going to highlight at why I think they were prioritized by the Dolphins in the offseason. And we'll go through a little bit of film study, and I'll highlight on film and explain to the fan base, exactly why I feel that they were prioritized based on their individual skill set. So, and again, for these, not to address Jerome Baker again, but when we go over that, when we over the course of, my evaluation or whatnot, you'll see exactly why Jerome Baker is not a ideal fit in this game. So, so that's pretty much it, bro. In a nutshell.
You saw those Houts clips, with Fitzpatrick?
Yeah. That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, you see, he didn't even he did the back shuffle. He didn't even backpedal. He did the double shuffle back and then just slang it after he went about 3 steps back, right? He was making quick decisions, some nice throws. But yeah, guys, that's that's going to do it for tonight. We are going to be back. Like I said, we are going to have some film. So people of you have been asking, you want to see us highlight certain things. EM is going to be highlighting certain things when it comes to Emmanuel Ogbah, Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, and then he's got a little bit in there about some of the rookies we brought in and how they're going to help us do what we want to do in terms of what we want to deploy defensively. But I just wanted to give a shout out before we get out of here. We got another donation from your boy. Fake Spike again coming through. He says, I know it's early, but what's your take on Talia Tagovailoa? So to his brother. Yeah, I actually thought he was going to try and a lot of people were talking about how he could transfer to one of those Florida teams. He obviously didn't. He's not Tua. Don't expect Tua. I think you got, he can't beat out Mac Jones, and I think Mac Jones is good, but I don't think Mac Jones is great. So I haven't watched a lot of Tuella, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't expect big things from him. Like he's not anywhere near my top 10 quarterbacks to watch in the 2020 college season, which again, guys, I will be doing, just to kind of go off topic, guys, I will be doing a top 10 quarterbacks to watch for this college season. I will be giving you a top 10 draft eligible quarterback big board heading into 2020, but a show I'm excited about because I've already lined out, I will be giving you guys the top 10 players to watch that are draft eligible for Dolphin fans. So that'll be something you're going to want to watch because I'm going to be highlighting some studs, and we got 2 first-round picks, so that's going to be something to definitely keep your eye on because you could very well see 2 players out of the top 10 be selected. But yeah, so this Wednesday we'll be back, and we will be doing EM's Edge Evaluation Show. I'll see y'all then. I will let y'all know in the middle of the day on Twitter what time we'll be going live. But other than that, anything else you want to add, EM?
As always, we appreciate everybody coming out. We appreciate the support and the love everybody is showing. And y'all already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day.
Yes, sir. You know what it is. Finside the NFL. I don't want to – you know what I was going to say, don't you? Often imitated, never duplicated, my friends. All right, brother. We appreciate all of y'all for coming out. We hope y'all had a great night. We will see y'all Wednesday, unless something breaks tomorrow, of course. Fantasy, our Twitter names are at @the_real_reason. And EM's is at EMdolphinfan, and you can follow the channel at Finside the NFL. And we have started the Instagram, which you can also find at Finside the NFL, which I'm going to be posting pictures on this week. Appreciate all y'all for coming up. But as always, fins up. We hope y'all stay happy.